Hey, I'm back with another video. It is 11:37 a.m. It is July 1st. Oh my gosh, the time is going by so fast. And so, I just got back from the store. I went yesterday as well, but sometimes it's better to take, different trips to the store. That way it gets you out of the house. I try to stretch, my little responsibilities out so that I have something to do. I don't like to be in the house and be bored. It just drives me crazy. Okay, so I got some intuitive messages earlier this morning, and I wanted to share those with you guys. I had just posted the video yesterday, releasing the third quarter newsletter, which was actually kind of long. It was like about 38 pages this time, which I enjoy putting it together. But I felt like I got a lot of this out of my system because I realized how burned out I am over this subject. There were certain topics that I had decided to leave out of my life a while ago, you know what I mean? But because I was wrapped up in this issue relating to human trafficking and then people, bullying me, preventing me from living my life, I had to start talking about issues or subjects that I really didn't want to talk about, such as race. I've never been into, like, after I would say my mid 20s, I started to get like kind of bored with the subject of race, mainly because I understand the psychological issues behind it. I understand, it's a illogical subject. I personally feel like for me to engage in or whatever. I understand, people have their preferences. People do things to other people. They have their resentments. They always have some sort of issue. Some people, it's a matter of their ego or whatever. And I choose not to be a part of that. I really do look at myself as a world separatist. Like, I don't really want to put any effort into defending who I am. I'm completely comfortable with who I am, okay? And then I also understand, not everybody in this world's going to like you. And unfortunately, there's times where people base their view of you based on things that make them feel comfortable. You know what I mean? And that could be based on religion. It could be race. It could be your gender. It could be anything. I've noticed that some people could even hold certain things against you based on the kind of cell phone that you choose to buy. I mean, people are people. And, unfortunately, I'm somebody who understands how people are. And so this is one of the reasons why I feel like I have to be very guarded when it comes to people. I do understand that I lived through a genocide plot that I was unaware of. Like I said in my last video, and I think I made it kind of clear in my newsletter, that I've always had an interest in religion. I've always studied religion. I've talked about me studying Jehovah's Witnesses, me reading their material, me even reading Mormon material, me opening my mind to these sort of things as a kid, because it was important for me to understand how each religion was different, their doctrines and stuff like that. And but I understood their doctrines, and I understood that that this is what they were supposed to believe in, okay? But as far as like their little what went on in their meetings, their secret meetings, you know what I mean? I never realized that churches collaborated to hurt other people, and this is something that I'm starting to come to understand, based on my research, coming to understand why is it that you can encounter, even going back before the internet, okay? Like, I would go to places, and then I would have to deal with just illogical bullying from people. And I understand now that this is how they had spread it before, things like the internet, social media, and stuff like that. It was done through churches. And now that I come to understand this, this does confirm a lot of my views on human behavior, mind control, cults. It's so deep. You know what I mean? This is to me a social experiment that should not be ignored. Really, it should not be. I want to go into some of my intuitive messages that I have. Anyway, there's a lot of people that are very happy that I express my feelings towards Christianity. Like I said, before all of this happened, I've always believed in, there's freedom of religion here in this country. And I always believed that that was a wise thing to do because, like I said, it's difficult to see God in one way. You know what I mean? Even if you're the same denomination, people are going to have their different communications with God, their different specific, ideas and how God touches them. Like for example, you might be praying and it help make you think better. Whereas somebody, they don't want to have formalized prayer. They seem to have more of a connection to God when they're walking down the street, just kind of open minded and waiting for messages to flow in. Everybody is very different. Okay, even if you do belong to that. So I always accepted how other people had their relationship with God, and understanding that I knew that it was illegal to be harassed over these sort of issues. I figured that the majority of people would be more mindful. Okay, I've always just kind of kept off to myself. So being attacked by this Christian thing, like knowing, going back to my childhood, coming to understand that the reason why I had such an unfair start, like, and I would, it was in school. I remember being bullied by teachers. I remember being bullied by classmates. I remember, and the reason why they felt, entitled to do this is because this was being reported from the pulpit of their church. Okay. And these people were followers. They were just straight up followers, and thinking that it was an okay thing. They never questioned, well, where did this person come from? How did they come to be? Yeah, they knew I was a clone, right? But did they understand the connection between these, how these people were created, and the black market that was associated with it? Did they understand that cloning is technically, something that is very unethical, right? And that it's a form of slavery. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times people get bullied. Just like in my families, both of these people, adoptive as well as my biological family, tend to feel this sort of sick entitlement to me because they are around people who are very immoral. Okay, it's a very immoral trade. Okay, that the church was complicit in. I mean, they allowed it to happen for years and years and years and years and years. Don't forget, I'm not the only clone in my family. My father was a clone. And going all the way backwards, okay? So for years and years and years and years, this is the church's little secret. Now, like I said, I am in no way somebody who wants to keep going on with this, because it has painted my view of people, and I'm confirming this. Like, I honestly feel more comfortable just kind of being on my own. You know what I mean? Like, I understand I have to interact with people, but it's like once you understand that this is how people saw you. This is how people were told to treat you, and they had no problem with it. You know what I mean? So I understand, like, kind of, I was thinking about the days of Noah, like, and the more I think about the Bible, I believe that the Bible is, okay, it's like a form of probabilities, right? I also do believe that there's certain characters in the Bible that maybe I have been, the highlight of certain individuals in the Bible, like even beyond King Solomon. Like, what if I was Noah? Like, I have not, like, done any readings on this or studied, meditated to get any sort of confirmation. But it seems like resets. The reason why we have resets is because it just gets out of hand, and they have to start all over again. And I would say the story of Noah, kind of, right, would be kind of an example of that reset, where there was just a bunch of evil, wicked people. It was out of control. So it seems like this one particular person had higher moral standards than anyone else on earth. Okay, so this person was able to be preserved. Okay, and then this person had dominion over certain animals, put them on the ark, and so on and so forth. Okay, but this is an example of a reset, is what I'm understanding. Okay, I'm looking at the Bible in a different perspective, more like when it comes to bloodlines and this whole repeated pattern, okay, of, like I had mentioned, the issue of marriage, and then these weird requirements when it came to marriage, like, the polygamy thing. And then as we progressed, it was like, okay, Jesus was talking about just one wife. Okay, as I am progressing now through my spiritual journey, somebody who has been a male as well as a female. As a matter of fact, there was times where I came back here as an intersex individual, which means I was hermaphrodite. I was like somehow split between the two. Whatever the case is, throughout the course of my incarnations, I have understood what it's meant to be somebody who was a male and a female. Okay, and I understand that women are human beings. Okay, this is how we progress. See, in the past, we were more focused on what instinctively came to us. Okay, it's instinctive to want things. For a little kid to walk up to another kid and just yank something out of his hand and say, "I'm going to take it." Okay, this is what makes one person barbaric and one person civilized, is understanding the difference between right from wrong. So when we came here on Earth, we were all very, very primitive, and throughout the course of time, it's like we've evolved. We evolved. We went from polygamous to trying to be more civilized. Now I'm coming to the understanding is like, well, when it comes to the issue of marriage, this is something that needs to be looked upon deeper. Okay, it's not about, I'm not saying people shouldn't get married. I'm saying is people should get married for smart reasons. Instead of, let's just, put these people together and think something's going to happen. I will tell you the one thing about marriage, okay, is, or any sort of relationship that you want to formulate, okay, typically and naturally, people generally tend to gravitate towards people that they feel like they have something in common with, okay? So I would say the majority of people are going to marry within their own race, okay? The majority of people would marry within their own religion. If you are somebody who wants to preserve your lifestyle, your belief systems, your little habits, your traditions, your so on and so forth, you're naturally going to gravitate towards those people, right? But what more needs to be more important and chiseled down is your compatibilities, things that you agree with. This is going to enhance your life, okay? This is something that people really didn't think about, because there were times where women were looked at more like pieces of property. Yes, we have feelings. We have feelings, okay? We have dreams, we have desires, okay? We have a mouth, we have a voice. And see, in the past, it was like, well, men were the ones who were in charge. And I'm not trying to create an issue or a division, okay? I'm just saying is there's a big room on this earth for everybody. Okay, and there's some people who are put in situations where they have to stand up for themselves. I am a woman in that situation. You know what I mean? And it's not me like burning bras or trying to stick it to the man or like downing on the patriarchy or anything like it. It really does not have to be that deep. And this is what I'm trying to let people to understand. It has nothing to do with these things. You know what I mean? Sometimes people's lives are put in. I was born as a part of a operation that was associated with Operation Paperclip, which a lot of people did a lot of bad things back then. Meaning, like, you had high profile people who were involved in this. I'm sure Nixon was aware of all of this. All of this stuff was going on, doing a lot of things that they shouldn't have done. Okay, turning a blind eye to certain things and participating in things like human trafficking, which has been going on for a very, very long time. Okay, and I'm starting to talk more about these sort of things. Okay, and now we're becoming aware of certain injustices. Okay, no, this is not something that was normal. Okay, no, the churches were painting me out to be somebody who was like someone deliberately being a bad person. I have been pursuing God since I came out of the crust that bitch's womb. Okay, like what's her name, Diana Ross. Okay, this was the first time I was created, or given a body through human means or whatever. So, and no offense, I don't want to talk about Diana Ross because I'd like to forget all about all of these people. People really tend to think that they try to project their feelings into me. Like, for example, some people cannot imagine just severing ties with people. They can't. And I never had a relationship with Diana Ross. She and I are not mother and daughter. I don't know these people. Okay, all I know is I was raised to believe that I was a member of the Gordon family. Okay, this was all orchestrated through churches, meaning that they were deciding my reputation. They made sure that I never had any stability. They made sure that people that I encountered bullied me, harassed me, and they never were able to provide a real legitimate reason why. Something that was beyond my control. Like, I understand that they had issues relating to me being somebody who had astral projection, who experienced astral projection, which I'm assuming my sister told everybody after that happened. All I can tell you about astral projection is that this has been discussed in certain other groups, like, certain Indian people understand what the astral projection is, okay? And I would say that astral projection is a confirmation that our souls live outside of the body, okay? To me, this is like great news. If you understand something like this, that our souls are infinite. That's a wonderful thing, okay? Yes, some people, even regular people who are not clones, experience astral projection. Some people talk about, like, oh, I had this dream and I felt like I was in my room or I was floating around, and they'll talk and describe this. And I remember, like, my ex mother in law, she was telling me this, and I said, and I think she might have been a clone too, but anyway, I remember telling her that she astral projected, and she was like really uncomfortable with this. It's like, yes, these things happen. They happen. I've read about them. You know what I mean? And there's certain cultures who have, deeply studied this sort of subject. Okay, and they have this information. But basically, what it is just, yeah, it's confirmation that this happens. You know what I mean? And that doesn't make me a bad person. You know what I mean? But anyway, what else did I want to talk about? So yeah, I really want this the last newsletter that I wrote. Really don't want to go into my feelings about religion anymore. Okay, the certain topics I'm done with. Okay, I'm done with. Like, I understand my life going forward. I am going to be living a very solitary experience. I mean, existence. This is, I fully understand. I will never rely on anybody. I'm doing everything I possibly can to be as self-sufficient as I possibly can. Okay, my assistance from people is minimum. If I need something from somebody, I will always compensate them in some way. I really understand what I'm dealing with and what I had to deal with. Okay, and my feelings is that I need to be more guarded. I need to be protective of my space, okay? Because just like the days of Noah, I do feel as though I'm among people that are not very moral, okay? Okay, so I talked about the astral projection. Okay, I talked about me opening my own business, which I'm going to be doing that this week. I was kind of messing around with this website. I'm understanding it, getting a little bit more comfortable with it. I am not a graphic designer. I am not a graphic designer, okay? Now, ideally, I would have handed this off to somebody else, but I am on a budget, okay? I am on a budget, and I don't have a lot, okay? And it's very basic. I only have like 4 pages to this website, okay? I'm basically advertising my services. I'm also selling my video, okay? And my services are basically, I'm offering management services on site, and I'm also offering administrative services on site or remotely. Okay, management services have to be done in the office. I am also selling my video, the human targets on that. Okay, like I said, I'm serious about raising money so that I can move on and get out of here. So anyway, but that's what I'm doing. Okay. I do get the intuitive message that this issue with Donald Trump, as well as informing the churches, has been communicated, and that people understand the situation. I do understand that people do understand the situation, okay? I do believe that my business plan will be protected, meaning I'm not going to have to deal with any sort of bullying, any sort of obstruction, any sort of anything, okay? I would say the church owes me a lot, okay? The church has taken a lot out of my life, okay? Um, I get the intuitive message that people realize that I'm the only professional who has skills that I have applied to be used as a cohesive whole. Like, a lot of people who the people who were bullying me, were making fun of me because I was bullied out of school. I blah 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 blah. They have these 4-year degrees and stuff like that. Okay, and they probably bragged about them being knowledgeable in their schools and the studies and everything. Okay, but when it comes to this issue of human trafficking, the fact that religion is not supposed to be used as a hiring to determine your being hired or whatever. Also, the issue of my race, my religion, just all of it. Okay, the outward bullying, the blacklisting, all of it. Okay, I think this pretty much shows that yes, I am somebody who takes my job seriously, and I'm far more educated than the average college student. This is not me bragging. Okay, this is something I already knew. I already knew, but they challenged me. Okay, and I had to stand up for myself. Okay, I am somebody who is very serious about being an autodidact, and I'm somebody who's very serious about restructuring the education system. And yes, I do feel as though I am somebody who is in a position to do that. Now, the message that I'm getting is that people are interested in my understanding of the transferring of the soul transfer. Yes, I mean, this is one thing I would say that the cloning issue did bring to light. Okay, we are souls. Okay, continuous souls. Once we die, we are basically out of our body and we're floating around doing whatever. Okay, that's pretty much how that works. Okay, and yes, spirits can inhabit items, objects, and stuff like this. Okay, and I think a lot of people are kind of opening their mind up to this possibility because, certain religions teach one thing. And, I remember some religions didn't believe that we actually had a soul. Some people believe that we are a soul. So, coming to understanding all of this, it's very eye opening for a lot of people. All I can do is like explain it to the best of my ability. Anyway, people understand that my view. Okay, I did talk about beauty in my newsletter, and like I said, I don't believe that I am physically beautiful, but I try to coordinate my outfits. Even when I'm wearing something basic. Today I'm wearing a tank top because it's really super hot outside, and I am wearing a pair of shorts, which is really nothing, spectacular. But I threw on some earrings and kind of, made myself a little bit more chipper, as I call it, chipper. That must be a British word, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I've always said that. But I try to make myself look a little bit more, happier, whatever. I do like adding color. You know what I mean? I think it makes me happier. And I threw on some earrings, some sun and moon earrings, which I thought were kind of fun. And this is what I try to enjoy in life. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Okay, so I do get the feeling that I am getting I'm being given credit for the things that I have accomplished and the things that I have discovered or mentioned or whatever. And that's wonderful. You know what I mean? But, at the same time, I always feel like, I'm not somebody who can engage my own audience. I get, it's the game playing. Okay, this is one of the reasons why it doesn't matter if you're sorry. It's the fact that you do this all the time, and it's just something I can't deal with. You know what I mean? It's like I don't like the treatment that I get from this particular group. Okay, I feel as though it's always some sort of disrespect. I am applying for my DBA. I should be going down there sometime this week. Um, I'm going to be operating as Gordon Occupational Engineering, and hopefully, what I will do is, like I want to work temporary jobs here, and then maybe sell. Hopefully, I want to sell my video. I'm trying to get people to buy my video. To share with their company, so that they can be more aware of human trafficking. I want this to be well so that I can make enough money to move back to Lancaster. I'm looking forward to starting my life over. I get the intuitive message that the United States supports my human trafficking initiatives. I just saw on the news just recently about some human trafficking busts. I don't know if that's directly related to me, but I'm glad that people are starting to open up their minds to this, okay, and not being blind to this kind of stuff being played out in front of them anymore, okay. And the reason why this happened is because, number one, ignorance, and a lot of it was mind control from the church, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And like I said, this was a very evil thing, okay. And I'm not trying to say churches were deliberately evil, but like I said, churches are man-made, and corruption can easily creep in to organizations, okay. And I know this goes back hundreds of years, okay. The whole cloning thing, bringing in adopted kids and stuff like that, using them for farm labor and mistreating them and all this other stuff has been going on for years, over centuries, I'm sure, okay. But like I said, this has become normal to people, okay. And now we're going back now and talking about the origins of certain things and why, people like me got created is because they were jealous of my bloodline. My bloodline is, and I'm not, when I say this, I'm not trying to say this to be arrogant in any way, okay? But my bloodline is superior. It's superior, okay? Egyptians were known to be, advancers of civilization. And I understand the Nazis wanted to improve their race, and they were always looking at people like me, okay? I even got a message, in my intuitive message that Hitler knew who I was when I was. I'm serious. I must have known about Hitler, okay? I seriously must have known him, and I may have even communicated with him, okay? See, the thing is that I've always been a very open-minded person. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if I did have a relationship with Hitler. Not saying that we were buddy friends, okay? But when it comes to like me studying people, because this is all I've ever done. I'm sure I've done it as Stevie Berganza. Okay, when it comes to me studying people, yeah, I would probably sit down and have a discussion with Hitler over coffee or whatever. I remember entertaining a white supremacist guy at my house when I lived in Cal City, right? Picking his brain. Then we ended up getting into this conversation and we got an argument or whatever. And he ended up being really nice to me later on. Okay, the thing is that I understand I understand what Hitler's dream was. Hitler wanted to advance his race. He understood that there was a lot of things that were missing in the white race, and he wanted to improve it. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, you know what I mean? But a lot of people who were following Hitler, were overzealous in their attacks and their, greed, and it gets out of control. Okay, and this is what happens, and it has carried on through the time period that we're living in today. I got the intuitive message that the state of California supports my project for human trafficking, and I think that's wonderful that the state of California is on board for that. But like I said, I did see like two human trafficking busts just recently on the news. Didn't want to read the whole thing, okay? But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, did that have something to do with me talking about human trafficking? If it did, I'm very glad. Yeah, the Swan Song Manifesto, there is a part on the website, okay, where you can sign up for the newsletter. Okay, it was already set inside the automatic format of the website. Like I said, I am not a graphic artist, okay, but I am somebody who has to fly solo, okay, and I understand there's a lot of people who were complaining about my work in the past, like a bunch of people that I find I'm offended that they sat here and wanted to suppress my work because they really never had the right to intercept my work in the first place. Okay, but my work, like for example, my website, I am not a web designer. Okay, I would say that there are certain courses in AWI that talks about setting up a website. Okay, so I do believe I have the great information in there, but I do not believe that it looks physically appealing. I do not think that it looks appealing. Okay, if I had somebody I could trust, which I don't, okay, I would say, could you help me with this? Okay, I am never going to trust another person again. So unless of course, throughout the course of time where I can actually, improve it myself, it's going to be the way that it is. Okay, it's going to be the way that it is. Okay, and with that, what the visuals tell you is that I'm a woman on the run who has to do things, on the fly and make the best of situations. Okay, which is the story of my life. Okay, why? Because I'm a victim of human trafficking. I don't go too deeply into the human trafficking thing. In my website, I do talk about me being a victim of human trafficking, and also saying that this was relating to a cult activity, activity. But I do talk about, what one of the reasons why I'm creating the abbreviation for Gordon's occupational internet engineering is GO. Okay, why I'm creating GO is because, I have noticed a lot of workplace violations since I started working, okay? And then since I gained knowledge of what it really is to be a true manager and a leader within the workplace, I would always think, okay, this stuff's going on right here, I would never emulate. And I already devised and created my own form of management. So this is the reason why I feel as though I need to step away from this and try to promote better work-life balance, the true work-life balance outside of the traditional realm of the workplace, okay, because it doesn't work, okay, it does not work, okay. So anyway, I did get into a message that I should associate myself or get on social media as a company, and that's what I'm trying to do. I have a lot of work I'm trying to get done. Like I just realized that I have my own company business email, okay, which is great, but I also would like to create educational videos from time to time. Now, right now, my biggest project right now is I want to finish Autodidact series, but I also, at this point, I'm still building my website, okay? I'm talking about the Swan Song Manifesto, where you can get the Swan Song Manifesto newsletter and sign up as a newsletter. I'm also still going to be posting it until I feel like I can develop enough customers, okay? I'm doing the best I can to get myself back out of this mess, okay? There's a lot of people, being a victim of gang stalking, most people would not be able to do this because they don't understand what hits them. They don't even know how to speak up for themselves. I'm letting people understand not only is gang stalking and human trafficking wrong, it is illegal, okay? It is illegal. and it can be stopped. And I'm very glad that people are paying attention. And it seems like these human trafficking rings, including unfortunately the one that Siobhan Zealous was associated with. It's very tragic. But see, like I said, if people really understood the law, they would have known what was going on. They would have been like, this is not supposed to happen. This is not supposed to happen. I am somebody who has made good use of this experience, even though this whole experience was something that has darkened my life for the rest of my life. Okay. It has made it so that it has changed the course of my direction. Okay. And all these people can do is nothing. Meaning, like, I have witnessed and experienced evil like you've never believed, like you could never imagine. Okay. And all I'm going to say is, like I said, I'm very protective of myself. Okay. But yes, the Swan Song Manifesto is a part of my work. Anything that I'm doing at this stage of my life, the Swan Song Manifesto is definitely going to be a part of. Okay. I got into a message that employers trust me to run their businesses. Like I said, if people select the management services, whoever does, that's going to take up some of my time. Okay. I'm also doing administrative services as well, meaning like whether it's small or big type of jobs, I'm going to do it all. I'm throwing myself out there, okay? But I am basically saying that this is how I operate. I operate in a very ethical manner. If somebody does hire me for management services, I'm basically going to tell them this is the way it's supposed to be set up, okay? And I'm going to tell them why I believe this. Why, I don't believe in, this whole idea of trying to make the corporate world work, the corporate structure work, and try to get work-life balance out of it. It just fails. It continually fails over and over and over again. But I'm glad that people finally trust me, and I'm upset that they didn't trust me from the very beginning. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of it has to do with my race. I will tell you, when it comes to what do you call it? I'm a good person. Okay, I'm as good as you're gonna get. You're gonna get it. Okay. Anyway. I do get the intuitive message that I have hit the major news. I think this has been going on for quite a while, and I have no knowledge of it. I have no knowledge of what they were talking about, what it was about, but I think it has something to do with the self-love thing. Okay, because most people have never been able to stand up for themselves when they have bullied, because it is designed to where it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you feel backed into a corner. You know what I mean? Because if people want to bully you because you dress nice or you look nice, right? I don't see how in the world somebody could even try to vilify that. But if you try to stand up for yourself, it makes it seem like you're arrogant. It is nothing wrong with wanting to project the best side of you. Okay, it's a way of advertising you saying, this is what I want, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm about. You know what I mean? And I talked about, why there has been times in history where, people wanted to basically downgrade women or make women appear certain ways that they're not supposed to, or they shouldn't appear, or whatever. I talk about that in the newsletter, but, it's like, to me, explaining the importance of maintaining yourself to people in 2025, it seems crazy to me. It seems crazy to me. Okay, and why does it seem crazy? Is because a lot of it has to do with indoctrination relating to religion. Okay, it should be no brainer when women encounter somebody like, for example, I always use Taylor Swift. Okay, people encounter people like in Taylor Swift, and they get a little bit like, oh, they get upset, right? You know why? Because they kind of wish they could do the things that Taylor Swift could. Deep down inside, that she's basically embodying, that particular person is embodying these qualities that a lot of people want for themselves. Okay, and then they get conflicted. They get conflicted because they don't know how to feel. Somebody is trying to tell them that being beautiful is wrong when everything inside of them tells you that that's exactly what they're supposed to be. You know what I mean? And I'm somebody who understands that, and you can't tell me any different. Aside from that, I remember in the educational system back in the day, this topic was covered in health. Health was a subject that people studied, and grooming was a part of that. So a lot of this, when I talk about education and how things have been omitted or obscured for specific agendas, that could very well be the case as well. Anyway, but yes, I'm a little bit shocked about, the secret club within the Christian organization. Like, all these years I've been studying their different doctrines and that sort of stuff. But now I'm starting to understand that, they would say that they were separate, but they were working together. And see, that to me is important to understand. And this is what makes it so deceptive. And this is what makes it so, I don't know. It's like I'm just washing my hands of it. Like, I literally do not want to have to deal with this anymore. Yes, I am recognized as an occultist. No, I am not ashamed of being an occultist. When you really look at it, when you really study it, people will understand it is the occult that was the first form of religion. It was the first form of spirituality. And I choose to stay with that. You know what I mean? I do. I choose to stick with that, and honestly, I can tell you that I have been blessed throughout all my lives. And even though, I've dealt with people modifying my body, making me a woman, doing all this other stuff, I have always had my spiritual connection with the divine intact. Okay, so no, I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I have never been cursed by God. Okay, but what I have been is I have been bullied by the church, and that's what it is. Okay. What else do I want to say? I think that's about it. I'm going to wrap up this video. I do get the message that a lot of people understand, and the churches themselves know that it's their fault, and everybody knows that I have every right not to want to be a Christian. I am not a Christian, okay? I'm somebody who believes in God. I believe in God 100%. Like I said, everything I do relates to God, the supernatural, whatever. That's all I do, okay? My entire world is basically revolves around that, okay? I'm a very spiritual person. Okay. And, like I said, I did put an effort into being a part of organized religion, but that was something that people didn't accept. Like, they wanted to bash the Jehovah's Witnesses, but it was okay for Bruce's mom to be a Jehovah's Witness when she was in the group. You know what I mean? So as I understand, like, I was in a setup to where they never wanted me to ever be, they just wanted to treat me the way that they wanted to treat me, just because of my bloodline, my superior bloodline. I'm not ashamed to be the, what do you call it, the clone of King Solomon. I'm actually very proud of it. I'm proud of who I am. And and that's not me being arrogant, it's just I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be an Egyptian. You know what I mean? I am proud to be, who I am. I'm thrilled, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I still live on the earth. And right now, I feel as though there's a lot of improvements that need to be done. So anyway, and I'm hoping I'm going to be a part of that. I'm going to wrap up this video. I'll be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.